welcome and good morning to episode 15 of the Hobby Hotline, the hobby's only live call-in show. I'm excited this morning. We've got Drew from Let Me Get That Potograph.
What is going on, man?
We've got the Mike Sommer from Wax Pack Hero.
Howdy.
And then myself, Ben, from I'm Our Trading Cards, About the Cards podcast. We're excited to be coming at you. I mean, it's hard to believe that we've been doing this now for just about 3 months. Time flies. The rotation of hosts is phenomenal. These shows keep getting better. We've had awesome guests. Before we start the show this morning, we just want to thank everybody out there who's listening, calling in, following us on Facebook and other, downloading our streams. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. It's amazing how much this show has grown in 3 short months. So we're really excited. Good morning, boys.
What's going on?
Yeah, it's another good day.
It is.
Finally have warm, sunny weather here in central Illinois, so I am happy about that.
Hey, and I can see the mustache, man. It's almost the curl is getting a little bit better. So
yeah, the curl.
Every time I see you, it's nicer.
That's right. That's right. It continues to come in, so I'm happy about that. My wife is not, but that's all right.
It's great though because you've been fertilizing it. Went over to the Home Depot and got some fertilizer. Got some Roundup for the sides, so it's only nice and full. It's almost there. It's almost 1975. It's
getting there. I'm going for that Raleigh fingers.
Dude, that's fantastic. Best mustache in the game ever.
Yep. Well, absolutely. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks once again for tuning in to the hobby's only live call-in show. And I am posting the link, of course, if you have any questions or you'd like to call in. The link is right there. But we're going to dive right into it today, guys, because there is a ton to talk about. And, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about it a lot on the show, and it's Project 2020. But within the last couple of weeks, guys, especially this week in particular, with some cards coming out this week, which I believe we had a Twitter question on that I'll let you touch on in just a second, Ben. It's there's Project 2020. Let's put it this way. In my opinion, it's getting a lot more interesting.
It really is. I mean, I don't know if you guys, Mike, are you buying any of this?
Yeah, I'm kind of falling into what I think is the stereotypical deal with some of these online releases that I should have learned my lesson with the living set, but I didn't. I didn't get involved with 2020 at the very beginning, and I did so because I was not thinking about it correctly from a financial perspective. I appreciated the art side of it, but at $20, I wasn't really willing to start to fork those over. I didn't really I thought about it from a traditional collecting mindset, not the new market that this could be potentially bringing in of people who are not traditional baseball card collectors. I think that's where I really dropped the ball. And so I started buying a few as an experiment a few weeks ago with one of the Mattingleys and one of the Trouts just to test it out. As I got those in, I immediately sold them for over double, was able to keep one of each for myself, sell the rest for some profit. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been buying at least 5 of every card, but that's also when we've seen production runs start to spike.
So this was the first week I bought. Gotcha. Frank Thomas was the first week that, I'd liked some of them before. I thought they were cool, but I didn't take the plunge. But this week, the Frank Thomas, the gold one, it's a card I love. And I thought it's just a unique take on it, so I thought, why not? And it also happened to come out the same day as the T206 set. So I ended up purchasing all of that at once. But I just took the plunge this week.
So I think it's going to be interesting because I did this right when the production runs were starting to increase. And so I'm not sure that we're going to see the $100, $200, $300 type prices for any of these now. But even some of those cards from early last week that haven't shipped yet, they still had some pretty significant print run increases, but the current selling prices on eBay are still $30, $40, $45.
Yeah, absolutely. You can at least buy a 2-pack for the one you want.
Yeah.
And probably flip the one that you don't want and get yours for free or close to it, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you're in at $35 and you sell the one you don't want for 40, you know, you're talking about maybe keeping the one after you pay all your fees and everything.
Yep.
You're probably coming out ahead with free plus, you know, $14 at the worst case scenario.
If you're at around, if you can sell for around $22 to $23 with shipping, you can break even at least on you're not going to lose money on the one that you're trying to sell. Like that's the break even point. So if anything above that is all offsetting your cost.
Absolutely.
So we haven't really seen any on the secondary market after everything is released consistently sell for less than purchase price. Low 20s is about the lowest you've seen, kind of that break even point.
Yeah.
But not everything is a guaranteed double like it was for a while. But this next few weeks, as people start to get these increased print runs in hand, will really be a test for that secondary market. And I'm interested in seeing that.
And I think a lot of what that's going to do, I do think you're 1000% correct. I think we are going to see a lot of change in the secondary market. Now, how big and how drastic that change is, I'm not one to speculate, but I do think it is going to have a lot to do with who that artist is that did
sure.
And that's going to have a lot to do with it. Not even the design. I've seen some that, now granted, the artist is great, and I might like every other one that artist does, but there's a couple that look terrible, but they're still selling great because it's them. I think there's certain artists that have that so die-hard following, they're going to buy any of them up. And I think that's where you're going to see, that's where you might see the secondary market at least a little bit stay the same. But I do think when these higher print runs come out, it is going to be, interesting to watch. But it definitely, the Ben Ballers, the Jamesons, ones like those, I think are always going to be, no matter where the print run gets, I think they're always going to be just a little bit higher, which is funny because, it's a hobby where we always talk about print runs and, the higher the print run, the less desirable something is. But,
Well, and two things real quick to follow up on this before we move on to our Twitter question about Project 2020. One, I think Mike is spot on. Where's the spike on this set? We saw with Topps Living, it took about 3 months. Mind you, at that time, it was 3 cards per week. And so it was just released once a week, available for 7 days. It took about 3 months for people to really get an idea of what the set was and whether or not I want to be in part of this or not. The difference in Project 2020 is it's 2 cards per day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And I think for, the price point is considerably different, right? It's not $5 a card times 3 per week, $780 a year at the time of release, right? Now it's down to 2 cards, so it's even more financially palatable.
Yeah.
But I think now a lot of collectors know that this set exists.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot are kind of artificially inflating the print run right now because people are seeing those spikes on the secondary market. Let me get my $20 in so I can make $200 in a week. And I just don't think that's sustainable. Now, the second point is Blake Jameson mentioned on our show this past week that there's an ESPN exclusive coming out with him next week because he's dropping his Mark McGwire card tentatively on Wednesday the 20th. And he couldn't show it to us. He couldn't say much about it other than the fact that they have an 85 spin to it, which is phenomenal because obviously the 85 McGwire has his face and the 87 McGwire has him from behind where you can kind of see his face, but it's more or less the backside of him. I was hoping an artist, one of the 20, would do that for me personally, just being selfish. I think once the ESPN piece comes out with Blake Jameson, I think you're going to see even more of a spike for a little while, maybe a couple weeks or month. But ultimately, I think that this is within the next 30 days. I think some of this is going to kind of calm down because we also have the big extenuating, elephant in the room, which is the world, right? If the world goes back to normal and people go back to their lives, they're not going to be all encompassed and focused on the hobby.
Right.
And to your point, real quick, Drew, let's if we can briefly talk about this
Yeah, we got a couple callers I want to bring in just a few moments,
sure.
guys. Just hold on a few minutes and we'll pull you guys in. Thanks for calling in.
Just one last thought, guys, whoever's on hold. TJ at BR8KNNX on Twitter asked us, this is his question. I just want to know the over-under on the Don C. Frank Thomas Project 2020. 30,000 question mark. Awesome card, but Frank Thomas is not exactly the best subject for Don's first card out of the gate. I know Don C. is from Chicago, so it makes sense. But will it make more than a few cents, so to speak? Cents being spelled as in dollars and cents. 30,000. It's gold. It looks gorgeous. But if we're ranking these iconic cards 1 through 20, at least in my opinion, that Frank Thomas is probably the 20th most iconic out of these 20.
No, I agree with that, but also I know, at least from when we were doing the Vintage Break South show the other day, right when it dropped, we were looking at it, and that's when I bought some for the first time, and I saw we had about 50 or 60 people in that were all looking at it at the same time, and had about 15 or 20 people that all bought in for the first time. That card, I think, also looking at the comments, I love going to the Topps ads and reading the comments on all of these. They're just so funny every single day to me. How angry people get over some of these cards, but the amount of love that this one was shown and the amount of people saying, oh, I'm going to get this one. I think 30,000 is a great number. I think that's probably where you would set the line at if you want to be conservative on it, at least in my eyes. I think it'll probably go to about 32 or 33. But yeah, I'd put it at about 30,000.
Mike, where do you think? I think 30,000 is high for me personally, but
yeah, I don't know that it will. I don't know. I would say that it's a Jeter or a Trout that's going to be pushing, that is pushing those 30,000 numbers. I'm not sure that the Frank Thomas is going to get there at this point, but
the only reason I think it might is because of the bulk deal, because both cards were so nice looking. But
yeah,
that's just me.
I would think it settles in at 13 to 15,000. If it goes above that number, I think the big variable at play here is the fact that this is Don C's first card.
Yes.
And we don't know what his secondary market is going to be. We don't know what his following is going to be. And as Mike alluded to, I think most of us that have followed this set have come to the understanding. And I even asked Blake Jameson when he was on the show, do you agree that that we card collectors are not the primary consumer target, that the art collectors, their personal following are the primary and we are the secondary on this set?
Yeah.
And so Topps wasn't really gearing this towards us as much as it was them. And he's like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. So having said that, we don't know what Don's following is. And so we're not going to know that until he's got 2 or 3 cards out, because he was the last one to the show.
But I also think that if he does have a strong following, I don't know much about him at all. I actually didn't realize this was his first card until just now. But looking at it from that way, if he is that late into the gate, if he has a strong following, I'm going to assume that they're salivating for those cards. If they are, that's where I think the print run could go pretty high. But it's going to be interesting to see. Regardless, it's going to be fun. But we do have a couple of calls, guys. We'll first bring in someone who's been on hold for quite a while. You guys know him as Mr. Newman says, it's not a show without the O. What's going on, Mr. O? How's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty great.
Good, bud. So what's going on today, man?
So my question is about the future of online releases, and especially with Topps 206, the newest online release.
Okay.
How do you think? So let's say we all get back to normal. Do you think this year will be the one with the most online releases? Right? What do you think is going to happen with online releases in the future?
I think they're going to keep. I think you're going to see more and more and more and more and more, regardless of if we're at home or not. They've found. I don't think Topps, Panini, Leaf, Upper Deck, I don't think any of their online releases in any way, shape, or form have shown them that they shouldn't. People are buying them up like crazy. They throw out a new on-demand product, it sells out like crazy. They put out the Montgomery Club, put out specific sets like the T206s. That print run's going to be astronomical. They put out the Jeter stuff once a month. Those are going to be huge. I mean, nothing they're putting out that's massive. Yes, some of it might not be knock a home run out of the park and the most desirable thing in the world, but everything they're putting out is selling. So I think you're going to keep seeing online releases. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the most popular products start to get a online release themselves, kind of like Mosaic used to be for a Prism, I think, which you kind of already get with First Off the Line. I don't think you're ever going to see that stop. I think you're just going to see it go more and more and more. And I think that's what the companies want, because they have more control over it. Now, whether they like doing the printing for it, since it's printed at their own printing presses, that's another story. But I see it going astronomically higher. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think, Rich chimed in a comment there on the YouTube comments and said, the end game is likely going to be direct to consumer and cutting out the middleman. And I hope so. I think that is definitely likely. There are going to be things like, they may not have to fill all the orders themselves. I think you could still have some massive production on a flagship type product, but fulfilled by Amazon, right? Like that, and work out some of those types of distribution arrangements where they still don't have to handle all of the inventory and the warehousing and the returns and anything else like that. But that's where things need to go, I think.
Yeah. Well, you guys have seen the movie The Goonies, right? Probably,
of course,
100 times.
Yes.
When they're down in the Fratelli's, restaurant basement, and Data clicks the printing machine, and he's like, $50 bill. That's exactly what this is. They literally found an incubation system to print money, and it like you guys are talking about, right? It's direct to consumer. I can buy it. I can get it delivered into my mailbox within 7 or 10 days. I can buy as much as I want or as little as I want, or you can team up with buddies and buy the cards and kind of split the difference, right? Mike's got the Montgomery 582 membership. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mike,
I do.
Yep.
I've got it too.
Weren't you selling team sets last year out of the factory set, or was that?
Not me. I kept everything last year.
Gotcha. Okay.
I kept it all. That was one of my kind of PC items, is all of the Montgomery stuff.
Gotcha.
I kept for myself.
Yeah. But I know a lot of people bought, like, say, the All-Star set that was released, I think, at like Target or Walmart.
Yes.
And then, hey, I'm going to buy the whole set for $60. I'm going to keep the A's out of it. And then I'm going to sell the twins to Stephan.
That's what,
and I'm going to sell I'll sell you the Cubs over here. And all of a sudden, we're all the kids on the playground once again.
Yeah.
And we're all pulling our money together to cover the hard cost of $60. But it's costing you 8, and Drew, it's costing you 4, and it's costing me 7. And
that's what I just did with the T206 set. I just, when I got it, I started talking to people. I'm like, look, I'm buying this just because I want a couple of things. But, if anyone wants them, let me know. But I'll hook you up. Now, thanks for the call. Mike, did you have something to say? We have another caller on the line, but what were you about to say?
No, bring him in.
Okay. All right. Well, we got another caller, and I just love the name. He's a hockey collector, obviously. The Caniac Collector. What's up, man?
Brother?
What's going on?
Morning, guys.
So that's what your face
Good
looks
to
like.
see you, Mike. First of all, that mustache is
Thank you.
of legend. I know I keep my face hidden. Couple questions. First of all, Drew, I know you're mainly a hockey guy. Or you're more of a hockey guy than these other two gentlemen. NHLPA rules state that a player has to appear in a game prior to them getting a card.
Yeah.
If this pandemic continues on, how do you think that's going to affect the young gun market?
Well, it's going to happen. It could happen in a lot of sports. If any of the sports happen, we were actually discussing this, I forget on which show, and I did see a couple of I believe I saw Upper Deck themselves talking about this, but it would be like it would be a dual rookie class. We'll end up having to actually have a dual rookie class and something moved over. And it's going to be weird. It's going to be different. And, that's a scary part for Upper Deck. And I think for them, especially because the young guns, how important they are. But it's also, I think, something where I hope that the Players Association, I hope the NHL and everything would be a little understanding about it and not, and let it go through without too much of a big deal. But yeah, you're going to see a doubled up rookie class. which, could be fun in some instances, but could also really devalue and make a lot of people that should be priced a lot higher, priced really low, which is awesome to get those deals for now. But for that first year, it could be weird.
Chances are you're not going to see another Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby dual rookie class. But I was just curious. The second thing I wanted to ask you, gentlemen, since you returned to the hobby, what has been the most positive thing that's affected the hobby that you've seen?
Ooh.
I think for me, it's other. For me, I think it's other people joining me. I came back in late 2015, but I think one of the most fun things that I've seen over these last 3 to 4 years is so many other people like me who collected as a kid and are now entering the hobby. I interact with a fellow. Another teacher, one of my kids' teachers, and he's gotten back into the hobby, and his son is now collecting with him as well, and that's been cool to see. It's just been neat to see so many people, coming back into the hobby that haven't been there, for a while. Even Clint Cribbett, who was making some comments on YouTube earlier. He's another person here from Central Illinois that comes to our local monthly show, and his daughter comes with him to the show all the time. So seeing so many people come back, new kids starting, and other people who've never really been involved entering the hobby, it gives me confidence for the future of where we're headed. And I also like we touched on earlier, there's a product for everybody. And I think that's really cool too, from the very low end to the very high end and everywhere in between. There's products for everybody.
Yeah. No, before we let the Kayak collector go, I want you to be able to, I have a question for you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I interact with him once, twice, 10 times a week. He's got phenomenal questions, big hockey collector, loves his Hurricanes. You're a vet, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, awesome guy, awesome collector. But that's what it is. Mike alluded to that. It's literally the three of you guys is what makes my day. Yes. Knowing that I can hop on Twitter and I can BS with you guys. And I just was mentioning the Blacktop here a second ago about, collecting together. The four of us alone do not collect anywhere near the same. Right. And that's what's awesome and unique. Because I don't have to collect hockey because I've got you over there and I can live the hockey side without touching my collection, right? It's one of those things where we can collect through one another and together as a group. We can talk about the hobby. That's what's so great about the Hobby Hotline is we can ask questions and learn from one another as a group. And I really think that's what to answer your question, I think most of us universally can say the same thing. It's the interactions and the friendships. If I was ranking my 20 best friends in life, like in real life, most of them would be people I've met through Twitter, through the hobby, people that I know I could call on a dime. Drew's not going to not take my call. Mike's not going to not take my call if I call and say, I have a problem in real life.
I might answer a new number, who dis, but I'll eventually talk to him. No.
Yeah, eventually. He might block me a couple times and go, that knucklehead again. But if I called and said, Mike or Drew, I got a problem in my personal life, you guys got an ear, they're absolutely going to take that. It has nothing to do with the hobby. I got on a conference call the other day with a fellow collector, SoCal collector on Twitter, because we were going to argue about the Wonder Years.
Yes, and the band or the show.
All right.
And for 2 minutes, we talked about the Wonder Years. For an hour, we talked about life and cards.
Well, let's clear the air. Yeah. Winnie Cooper, far better than Topanga. Let's just
absolutely. Well, to answer your question, go on, Ben.
No, I was just gonna say, and of course, Winnie played Elsie Snuffin Grass on the West Wing. So
yes, she did. But yeah, to answer your question, also, Caniac collector. First of all, thank you for your service also. But what those guys said, I'm not going to take too long and echo it. I could say about 50 things about the actual hobby in general as well. Like, I do love the way products are headed. I like the way, like Mike said, there is a product for everybody. I like a lot of the different things that's going on in the hobby. But it's the community, and it's everything that I've gotten to experience from doing shows like this, the people I've met from doing things like this and interacting in rooms, Twitter, Facebook. I'm much more active on Facebook groups. But the people I've met in there, I mean, that's where we started the show and where I met my co-host Stu. You know, it's where everything kind of started. And like Ben just said, if you took a look at the people I actually talk to in a week, 99% of them are card collectors that don't live near me, besides maybe the one person that does, who's also a card collector. So, I mean, it's just the friendships, and then the other thing would have to be watching my son as he grows up finally start to really appreciate it and really start to enjoy it and watch and wondering what dad's doing and, you know, really paying attention as opposed to just trying to grab something and make a mess. So that's been nice to see as well.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you for your time.
Real quick before you go,
what's up?
You like to blog?
Yeah.
I've read a lot of your blogs. Some of them get a little personal. They're not all just about cards, but a lot of it relates back. Before you leave the show and go about your morning, why don't you tell anybody out there listening where they can find your blog should they want to hop on?
Yes.
Okay, well, the blog is at www.caniaccollector.com. It's a very basic, has my want list and just my random thoughts on the hobby. I don't really have a huge obsession beyond the Carolina Hurricanes and collecting cards. And Drew, we are in the same state of North Carolina.
Yes.
But I relate it back to growing up, childhood experiences. One of my favorite pieces I ever wrote was talking about how it helped me as I dealt with some of the issues veterans dealt with, how collecting cards kind of gave me a calming piece. But you can find it there. I'd appreciate anybody dropping it and reading it.
Absolutely, man. And guys, definitely check it out. It is awesome. And keep up the good work, man. Once again, thanks for your service, and feel free to call in anytime, bud.
Absolutely, gentlemen. You guys be safe in all this.
You too, bud. Wonderful caller there.
He is such a fun follow, and he
tags us
and he has a lot of great questions that we have misappropriated or borrowed for our podcast. He's got great insight. His blog is great. You know, veteran, so he does come in it from how it has kind of helped him through some of the PTSD and stuff. And so if you get a chance to check out his blog, or, you know, again, if you're on Twitter, definitely give him a follow because he's a great guy.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Well, once again, everybody, the link, I just posted it in the chat. And as I say that, somebody does call in. So from right now, we are going to bring in our next caller and move on to our next segment all at the same time. It's a regular. You guys know him, Uncle Rich Klein.
Hey, Uncle Rich here. How y'all doing?
Hey, Uncle Rich.
How's everything going?
Look at that empty stack over his right
I
shoulder.
know, right? We've done some, Steph and Angela have done some great work cleaning up this office. Give them the credit, not me.
So can we talk real quick, since we've got Rich and he obviously can offer some insight on the fact that our good buddy Ryan Cracknell with Beckett tweeted out a updated release calendar.
Yes.
And it looks like for a while there, June 24th was a holding date for 5 or 6 big releases. They just kind of pushed things back tentatively. It looks like obviously they're pulling some of that stuff forward. Bowman's releasing on Friday. For now, everything is for now. So
yes,
go to your favorite website that has release calendars, and you know, before you plan. What do we think about that? It looks like Topps is kind of getting back to quote unquote normal for at least a little while, at least tentatively.
Well, I think, you have these products ready to go. Most products have a 10 to 11 month, if I remember correctly, we'll call it life, between when they're created in terms of what they're going to do to when they hit, the marketplace. So a lot of these products were probably ready to be printed, before they hit the marketplace, and so now that the printing press, they're going to need things to do. If they're going to reopen, they need things to do. So get it out. And the June 24th date, if you think about, well, even though other than Topps, they're not public companies, you still call them quarterly earnings.
Right.
And if you think about each 3 months of the year on an economic level, June 24th is about the end of the second quarter. Yeah. So that's probably why that was the holding date for these products.
Well, and when they started pushing stuff back too, it started in March, if I'm not mistaken. So you had May, June. It was like a 60-day window to kind of, we're going to push it back 60 days and then pull forward or continue to push back as the world continues to turn and tells us and dictates. Yeah. So it was just a good date. Now, of course, I had that date. Most baseball card collectors had that date already circled as Christmas and summer, because if none of this had happened, June 24th was going to be the original release date for the best product of the year, which is Stadium Club.
Yeah,
that's a wonderful product in terms of the photos.
It's the best. It's the best for photos, absolutely. And Dave, quick question. We had a comment here. He asked, any updates on when companies are going to get rolling again on mailing out redemptions? Panini, I know, has announced that they are starting to fulfill stuff as they can. I don't know if they're doing as many, but I know Panini has started. I'm assuming Topps and everyone else will as well. Rich, I actually wanted to ask you a question regarding this stuff. I'm glad you called in when we were talking about this, because there was an email that was put out regarding Mosaic where it said that the print runs had been slashed. Now, I haven't seen any confirmation. I don't think there has been any from any companies that, it had been, but do you know, or have you heard anything? I know, living near the printing and knowing a little bit more about that side of it, have you heard anything about them having to slash any of the print runs, or maybe some of these products that are coming out soon, maybe having a limited run?
But it makes sense, especially if you have to open up the printing presses, let's say at 50% capacity.
Right.
If you only can have 50% of your employees in the building, then you can't produce as many cards. I'm trying to go through the memory of when I did the tour as part of the industry summit a few years ago.
Right.
And there were some people, some of the areas, the physical distancing was already there. Other parts of it, the physical distancing now has to be re-engineered. So it's very possible that they have to have less cards produced because you can only have less people legally in the certain areas. As I said, I only know the one by me, which is GCI. I've never been to the Cardamundi printing press. Right. But if you think about it in terms of how the people are set up, that makes some sense.
Yeah.
And to answer Kin's question, believe it or not, it's not anybody in the Twitter world or the podcast world that created Uncle Rich. It's my old friend Nigel Spill in California, who was calling me Uncle Rich 25 years ago. and I talked to him on Facebook about once a month, and I told him, wait a second. Well, he goes, well, you're not the oldest person that calls me Uncle Rich. He goes, I'm the first. I goes, oh, we'll do it that way.
Nice. So I always wondered that. So
I think, myself and Tim and Steph, I think, because Rich and I have this love-hate, love, hate, love, respect, father, son, uncle, nephew, cousin, neighbor over the window that don't park on my side of the street relationship, depending on what the day is. And nothing but respect. Rich and I have went back and forth. One rule that we've kind of never talked about that we've always had is neither one is wrong.
Somebody screen grab that.
It's just one of those things where
say wrong.
Yeah, it was. Well, your screen even paused and kind of glitched for a minute as you tried to say wrong.
My computer said, "Is everything okay? Do we need?"
Yeah, your computer didn't even want you to say it.
But that's the thing. We always kind of gave that moniker of he's like our uncle that just shows up to the party even when we don't want him. But
right.
But we love him forever and ever. Yeah.
But I think and I mentioned this in the comments, and my thought for the week is the podcasting group is basically a community. There's a lot of communities within the hobby. I was talking to an old friend of mine the other day who does 99% vintage cards. Mm-hmm. And is the last person in the world I ever thought would have said, I love the community I see involved with the case breakers and the people who follow them. And I was driving when he told me that, and I almost hit a light pole.
Yeah.
Because he understood just how important community is. And the people who were commenting and listening, we appreciate all of them because they're part of our hobby community too. Mike's friend and his daughter, Clint and his daughter Daisy, if I remember reading that correctly, they're part of our hobby community too. And so my thought for the day is we can get frustrated with each other. I can go with Ben with respect back and forth about his Maguire, why he should sell some of his 6,087 Maguires and cash it in and buy other stuff for his collection. But it's still a community, and it's so fun.
It is. Yeah, and that's what's great about this is, I've had people tell us in private, you're the expert on this subject. I'm like, I'm just a guy that collects, and all of us are just guys or gals that collect. None of us are experts.
Yeah.
I mean, Rich obviously is more of the Mount Rushmore of the hobby, so he would be more in that expert class.
Sure.
Along with his good friend Dr. Jim Beckett and a handful of others that contribute still to this day with the hobby. But what's beautiful about the hobby, what's beautiful about online communities, speaking about communities in general, podcasters, we learn from each other, we respect each other. We came together for the Hobby Hotline as a collaborative group because we're all friends. We talk personally, away from the card community, and it's just like the more we can grow this community in a healthy way, the better. That's why I like getting into Twitter debates because it's all done initially with respect. It's to incite. It's to incite people's fire, right? And that's why
that's what we hope.
Combative, right?
That's what we hope social media. Yeah, that's what we hope social media is going to be. That's what we hope we can get out of it, and that's what I do enjoy watching, reading y'all's debates. They are great. We actually do have another caller to bring in, and awesome. That is Mr. Chris Gilmore. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Oh wow, it went to 5 guys. What's going on?
5 guys now. But I've actually got a question for everybody. Chris, did you have a question, or were you just calling in to join the show?
I'm just coming in to say hi to Uncle Rich. What's going on, Rich?
Hey, Chris. Hey, how are you, my friend? I haven't seen you for a long time. I follow your posts on Facebook, but I haven't really talked to you in, 3-4 years now?
No, we talked to the National a little bit.
That's true.
Well, regarding while I have you, Gilmore, you can jump in on this because, guys, while we were talking about the release calendar, there's something I wanted to ask. Well, now all 5 of you, well, 4 of you, because I'm not asking myself. But you mentioned Ben how many releases were coming out just by Topps. And coming out so quickly. Panini's putting out their releases as well. You had Chronicles already drop. You've got a bunch more coming. With everything dropping so close together and them kind of making up for lost time, how do you see this playing out in the market? Do you think this is going to be something where all the products are going to be hot, or do you think some are really going to suffer and there might be some incredible deals because some maybe get overlooked by some of the massive releases that everyone's chasing that $100,000 Bowman instead of chasing the whatever the other product may be?
Personally, I think that there may be some short-term glitches where some stuff gets overlooked, but in the long term, I think it's all going to eventually play out. People are still going to, there's not going to be a lack of information on what's been released and what is out there. It may take people a little bit of time to catch up, both from their bandwidth as well as their financial bandwidth to be able to pick it up. But I think there's not really a risk of anything falling through the cracks over the long term. I mean, from what we're seeing with junk wax era stuff and the prices that those have gone up, the way that we're seeing secondary or semi-stars start to see their prices increase and go up, I don't see a risk of there being a long-term release or a release that gets overlooked in the long term.
Yeah, and to Mike's point, I think you're going to see the market flooded. So yeah, there are going to be some things that fall through the cracks. But the one thing we all have to keep in mind is, as a general rule, not every consumer is after every product.
Right.
If Museum Collection came out at the same times as Archive Signature Series and Mosaic, you have different sports, you have different release, mediums. You're going to have retail only, you're going to have hobby only, you're going to have online exclusives. It's just It's going to suck for people that do need to dabble into everything, like myself. I need to get all of the A's cards. It's going to be overwhelming for maybe 60 days. But I think initially, right now, people are just looking for something to buy. And I think personally, that's why we're seeing this spike in junk wax, because people have run out of new stuff from 2020 and even back to 2019. But they're going back, and these documentaries are helping because it's rekindling your love for that era of sports.
Yeah. Gilmore, Mr. Klein.
Hey, I think everybody's got it pretty much right. I always like to say we don't know what we don't know.
Sure.
But if you have 5 products come out, and this is an exaggeration, but if you have 5 products come out the same day, there may be an immediate loser. Well, the immediate loser may be the long-time winner if it's really printed in short supply, because all of a sudden everybody forgot about it, and then when everybody goes back to buy it, it's all gone. Where sometimes the winners get saved. Even in the junk wax era, excuse me, if you were really looking, for 91 tops in quantity, you can find it. You're never going to find the same quantity of 91 score. Not as many people, nearly as many people broke it. It's not that there's anything rare or scarce on 91 score, but try to find 1,091 score Ken Griffey Juniors. Try to find 1,091 tops Ken Griffey Juniors. You'll find the tops. I bet you'll have to struggle a while to get the score. I mean, as I said, there's still enough out there. But on a more global, more modern level, the same thing could very well happen if you have several products hit the same week.
Mm-hmm. Are any of these products besides like the web release of T206 printed to order? Because if they're not, then actual demand really doesn't mean a whole lot for the amount of product on the market, right?
Yeah, because it'll be there. It'll be there whenever.
Yeah, it'll end up as a closeout on Peach State or Southern Hobbies shelves one day, and then get pushed out on sales sheets at a ridiculous price. But yeah, it's not really a scarcity thing for the product. It's more of a perceived value thing. Like if a product starts off in the hole, it often has trouble digging out unless something happens to the checklist and one of the players blows up and people also start chasing it.
Yeah,
right.
And a lot of times, some of that product might be, to use a fantasy football analogy, you'll see runs on kickers and defenses in the mid rounds. You got your kicker, I better get mine. Even though we know the best kicker and the 15th best kicker over the course of a football season is so marginally small. So it might be one of those things that if a secondary, third, fourth product that got forgotten about is sitting on shelves, and then all of a sudden somebody starts gobbling it up, and word gets out, then now everybody goes and grabs it, and it'll be really fascinating to watch. Like Rich said, we don't know what we don't know. The next 3-6 months in the hobby are going to be really fascinating to see how the market reacts, especially once everybody gets back to work and life goes back to quote unquote normal.
I've seen runs on
there on the score Griffies.
Yeah. What were you saying, Chris?
I've seen runs on products started simply because one retailer just said, "Hey, I wonder if we can raise the price on this." Okay, let's raise the price. Right. So all of a sudden they raise their price. Dave and Adam sees that, well, we're raising our price. Steel City raises their price to match.
Right.
Nothing happened to the product. There wasn't an increase in demand for the product, but everybody thinks there were because the price went up.
And that's why, Chris, I'm sure you've seen my tweets where I say, if you didn't want it yesterday, you don't want it today. But a lot of times people, they think they do, right? Well, Chris, if you bought it, damn it, I have to have it. Why do I have to have it? Because Chris had to have it. Well, the difference is I'm not Chris, and I'm not you, Mike, or Drew, or Rich, and I don't collect in the same way. So why should I be influenced? Because that's how the hobby. It's very reactionary. It's one of those things like, oh, hey, wait a minute, look, a butterfly. And it really does sum up. We see it all the time. All of us see the reactionary stuff. Like, why do you need this? Because somebody else bought it. Why do we need this prospect from Bowman? Yeah, it's really the fear of missing out. I don't want to get left at the station. But the hobby really is like the bus system, right? If you miss this bus, don't worry, another one will be along shortly.
We actually have a caller real quick, so we can fit 6 in here. So we're gonna Brady bunch it up and add in who's your card joining the show.
Good morning,
What's
everybody.
up, man?
Good morning.
Hey, who's your
How's it
card?
going? What can we do
I don't
for you,
have a
bud?
lot today. I wanted to stop mowing just to let you know I'm out mowing today, and
Very nice.
I just want to tell you I enjoy the show. A lot of gratitude to all of you. I am new to the investing part, a longtime collector like everybody, but just want to say thank you. That's all I've got today. Just a lot of gratitude to everybody.
Well, you're
thank
welcome.
you, man.
Yeah, please call back anytime when you have something to talk about, or if you just want to sit with us for a few minutes and BS.
Will do.
Enjoy that mowing,
I'll try
man.
to stop mowing and do that more often. Saturday's my mow day, but I appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for calling in.
When you're not mowing, really come join us, okay?
I've
Thanks,
lost
bud.
connection, but I'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, it's an awesome call. Thank you, guys. We really do appreciate the support we've gotten from everybody over the last, 15 episodes. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
I don't know about y'all, but when you said his name, my first thought was, well, who is your card? Oh,
Look
a
at
Hoosier. That's a different
Chris
thing.
bringing in puns from Vintage Breaks. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I pun a lot. Sorry. Wait, I'm not sorry at all.
All right. So, Mike, you had where was I going with that? We were talking about the new release calendars and everything. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to touch on the new releases and everything that's coming out?
No, I'm encouraged that we're starting to get some new product and some new releases that are going to be found in stores. I think that's good for everybody. I know Panini has released their calendar, or at least they updated a few of their releases for the next several weeks as well. And so it seems like we're going to start to get a steady flow of both baseball, basketball, football releases, as well as maybe even some soccer. Upper Deck's been still putting out their normal stuff all along the way, and so that was encouraging to see as well. I think it's also interesting that they had a little different approach and didn't get impacted near the same way from a production situation. So no, that's all I really have to say about the release calendar.
Cool.
Yeah, release calendars are really, I mean, to put them even in pencil is probably an overstatement, right? Things move around so much, and production facilities are going to play that. Distribution channels. You have all kinds of third-party logistics, which are going to play a huge part. Our LCS is going to be open to customers. Mm-hmm. There are so many variables that might affect that. But to Mike's point, it's one of those things that when we all saw Ryan's tweet saying, "Hey, here's what the next 30 days is going to look like from Topps," it was like, this is encouraging. This is nice.
Absolutely. And we've actually got two callers in the queue, guys. We'll get you guys in one at a time here shortly. We're gonna add one in right now. We've got TX Car Dude. How's it going, man?
Good morning. Good. Howdy, Uncle Rich. How are you doing today, sir?
What's going on, man?
What Kobe did you pull today?
No Kobe's, unfortunately. Having a blast listening to your podcast, Mike. It's an honor and a privilege to talk to you. I do say that the 85 McGuire is the true McGuire, by the way.
All right.
The entire hobby loves to troll me.
So my question is I'm a huge Topps fan. Unfortunately, I'm getting more and more frustrated a little bit with them as the reaction has been slower. But where do you go to find and gather as much information as possible from Topps, like the release schedule date and what's coming up in the next year to 2 years? And like I'm with the hobby. I'm trying to get ahead of the hobby so that I can learn of what's coming out in the next
Well,
like, yeah, you're shaking your head.
Well,
Ben,
one
but
thing
I'm
I can
like-
tell you before anyone else can tell you, I'm sure everyone has something to say on this, but one thing I can tell you is trying to get information out of Tops, any information out of Tops is not the easiest. Even just a very simple, how are you doing, can be difficult. When you're trying to actually start into getting into predicting things and going into the future, that can get incredibly difficult. But in terms of like current release calendars and stuff, you can go to lots of different places like Cardboard Connection, lots of
Blowout Cards has it.
Blowout, lots of places have a release calendar, but I mean right now take those release calendars with a grain of salt, obviously with everything being pushed back. But in terms of being able to jump ahead like a year or so, I mean you can pretty much basically just kind of predict, say, if they're going to put out the exact same products, they might come out around the exact same time next year, but they like to add new products and take some away. So other than that, there's always going to be some surprises.
A lot of times around the industry summit in February, I believe that's when that typically is, they'll often have some information released. This year, they were a little more tight-lipped. I know in 2019, they actually put their preliminary baseball release calendar out at that event. And so we had an idea in February when their main products were going to be released throughout the entire rest of the year. There are a few retail-only releases that weren't part of that calendar, but pretty much anything that had a hobby presence was in that release calendar. Now, they didn't offer that this year, but that's one avenue. And also, another thing we won't have this year, but at the National, they have a Q&A, and a lot of times there's a few questions at the Q&A that will touch on what some upcoming products are, or what some upcoming plans are. So those are another couple options to keep in mind.
Well, and real quick, I'm somebody that has to get into every baseball product because there's going to be these cards, and that's how I've chosen to collect. To try to get ahead of the hobby or Topps specifically, I was just going to kind of scoot over in my chair and say, why don't you sit here? I've got a seat warmed up. We can sit together because I think most of us are trying to. And once you think you've gotten ahead and you have that release calendar in front of you, then you type in a player, right? You type in, last year, 2019, I typed in, 2019 Mark McGwire. And next thing I know, Topps Fire released. And now I'm seeing Topps Fire, and it's like, we didn't know, there's so many retail exclusives that drop during a day. And even though I'd like to say I'm very involved and in tune with what's going on, these I learned about them on eBay. And then I hit up Ryan Cracknell and I'm like, hey, do you have a Topps Fire checklist for me? He goes, what do you mean? And if I'm not, one of the more in tune, I'm assuming Ryan is, that's what he does for a living, and he doesn't have the information. So the second you think you can get ahead of Topps is the second that 3 products are going to drop that you had no idea about.
Well, y'all had Terry on last week. I didn't know if Tracy. Sorry, excuse me, Tracy. Y'all had him on last week. Is there, in my industry, that's the best way to go, is to make relationships with the sales reps or the product managers. Have y'all tried, or do you have relationships within the industry product managers? Would that be another good route to try and see if and at least get to I know they're not going to give you industry secret knowledge, whatever you call that, but at least keep you up to date with what's going on. I mean, Ben, what's been your experience with that?
Honestly,
Rich is probably the best to fill this question, honestly.
I know because I worked with 10, 12, 15 of them, some number of and I don't even ask my friends at Panini, who I've known for 15, 20, 25 years, what they're doing, because that's their business. I do know that when Dr. Beckett has each year what he'll call hobby dinners, where he invites 15, 20 people over for dinner, usually a Monday night in January. And, and he posted them as part of his podcasts. And, and Panini was talking about how the gestation for any product is 11 to 12 months, and things change in the 11 to 12 months. So even if you know the people, things can change. That somebody in upper management could decide midway through a product, we don't want this. And it's gone, and it goes away.
Yeah.
You have to replace it with somebody else. So even if you know the people, it's not the same because they're not making the final decision. You really have to know what the bottom line is, what the numbers, what the economics are, and I hate to keep bringing up economics with a PhD candidate in Mr. Ben there. You are a PhD candidate, aren't you?
I will be once I take a few more classes. But
okay, so you're on your way to a PhD. But, economics are sadly important in this business.
Yes.
And if the trajectory says don't do something, don't do it. So, so even if you know somebody, it doesn't really help. But and with an 11 to 12, I will tell you one thing I do know for about 99% sure. February 2021, in one way or another, there will be flagship tops, and 2 weeks or 3 weeks after flagship tops, there'll be tops heritage. Other than that, don't ask me what the tops 21 calendar is going to be because I don't know.
Yeah, and regarding what Rich was just saying, I had on Let Me at That Potograph, we had Panini's Micah from Panini, who's the product manager for baseball on, and he was discussing a lot about how many people are involved in those decisions, like Rich was saying, and it's far from, 2 or 3. It is a massive team, and there are a lot of people and a lot of places along that line where a product can just be snap gone in an instant, right when you think it's about to be finished. But TX Car Dude, thanks for the call, man. We got another person on the line we're going to bring in, but thanks for calling, bud.
Chris, sure thing. Have a great one.
Yeah, but what a tough job it is that Micah has to be the baseball card manager with an unlicensed brand where 90% of the hobby just craps on you every day. Golly, it's going to be a tough job.
All right.
But can we not call Panini unlicensed? They are licensed by the Players Association. Let's not, let's give them a term. How about not fully licensed?
There you go. Well, we got another caller.
So they are licensed.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an oligopoly.
Unlogoed.
I'll accept that, Chris.
There you go. 100%. Either way you want to call it, we won't call him unlicensed. But we do have another caller. He's been waiting on hold for a long time, so I want to get him in here now. Smitty joining the show. Thanks for waiting so long, bud.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good. Doing good.
So, don't worry about leaving backstage. This question is for Ben. Ben, I ran into you and your dad at the Fan Fest. You know who I am.
Right.
My question is like the junk wax era, the McGuires, Sosas, Frank Thomas, all that. Is it time to dump it?
Yeah, within the next.
Because I'm just watching I have Jim Mint-10s, Canseco's, and all that, dude, and it's just I'm looking at these prices and I'm ready to just
dump.
So Smitty is a huge A's collector and has a ton of memorabilia that makes my mouth water. It's just ridiculous what the man has.
Just dump it all.
Let me preface this for anybody listening: is if you're not wanting to collect that long term, like Rich has said, I need to sell all of my 600 plus raw 87 McGuires, and my thought is no, I collect them. However, I was looking at my binder the other day thinking. That binder is probably worth about $400 in February. And within the next 30 days, it's probably going to be worth anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000. In other words, in February, those were worth 60 cents a piece, equals $400. And now they're going to be close to $8 to $10 a piece, which extrapolated is $5 to $7 grand. So to answer your question, if you're not married to those, now is absolutely going to be the time to dump them, especially now that documentary apparently they're going to be releasing it a lot sooner than late June. I don't know.
But do you think the documentary, right? Like, as it gets closer, the price is going to go up, or after? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, should I just wait until June after it shows, or night start listing my stuff? Because I'm good with just a raw copy versus a PSA 10. As long as I got a copy for my collection, I'm good. You know what I mean? Yeah. Certain things. But I don't have to have the 10. It doesn't bother me.
I would definitely hold until at least the documentary is about to start to list or has started. And because you're going to see, you will be able to see if you watch it on eBay, you'll see when that real big spike starts, and it'll be right when the documentary starts, right before. That would definitely be the time to get rid of them, at least I think, to maximize it. And like you said, if all you care about is having a raw in your collection, that's the time I would definitely dump them.
There's one caveat to this real quick, because we do see eBay returns, and eBay is very very favorable for buyers. I can see people selling at stupid high prices within the next 30 days and then get cancellations when the market ultimately corrects itself within that window that allows a buyer to potentially get their money back. I really hope that's not the case, but we all have seen and heard or even been a victim of buyer's remorse and eBay saying, hey, give them their money back, and we don't get that card back. So
exactly.
Yeah. As soon as that documentary drops, just like we saw with Jordan and all the secondary guys, right?
Yeah.
It's not just going to be McGuire and Sosa.
These all sold. These all just sold. Rodman, Pippen, Kerr, Jordan, greatest team. Like
I have probably like 500,000 cards out in my shed I just built with my dad. So I'm gonna start selling, live streaming and stuff like that. But I came across, I had 14 boxes of 1990 Fleer basketball unopened wax.
Wow.
And that stuff went from like $5 a box. It was junk wax. It was crap. Ever since this, dude, I've sold 10 boxes at $75 a piece over the last couple of days. Just crazy. And then I'm like, maybe I should hold 2 boxes. You know what I mean? Just to put them away. It's like the older it gets, I don't know.
Since you've made $700 on those boxes, there's no reason not to hold those other boxes. You've already cashed in. You're into it with no cost. You're into it at a profit. What's the difference of whether you keep 1, 2, or 4 at this point? Because you've already cashed your money, and I think that's what I know. Mike Sommer talks about self-sustaining hobby. That sounds like the basis of what Mike Sommer talks about with self-sustaining hobby. Hey, if you get into something at a profit, then you can afford to keep the ones you want, and that extra money is what you do. And Chris, if I remember, I know you run we'll call it an anti-scammers group on Facebook. What percentage of sales do you think are actually get returned from what you gather from all the work you do?
Yeah, I don't know about a hard percentage, but I will say that when the market is volatile, returns spike. We saw it when Ohtani went down. We saw it. We haven't seen it with Jordan yet because the market hasn't corrected. But every time there's a correction, the last percentage of sales in that window are always very vulnerable. Therefore, I don't sell I don't sell towards the back end. I'll sell towards the front end because of that. If it's a high dollar card, I'm very conscious of that.
Even though you're leaving money on the table, Smitty. So Chris's point now might be
an economic principle: sell into an up market, buy in a down market.
Absolutely,
an up market, and that to me is a brilliant strategy.
Right.
Absolutely.
I just need to go on record real quick and say that this is my favorite Hobby Hotline episode that we've ever had, because I hope everyone understands how awesome it is to hear Ben talk about timing the market.
Yep. I love it.
Hey, I thought it was better. Ben had to say wrong.
We're going to start adding.
Smitty, thanks so much for your call.
Thank you.
I'll see you in January, bro.
And real quick, we did have real fast, guys. We've had a question in the comments that I did want to answer. Chris Leroy asked about Bowman Megas. I know he does a massive retail group, and he's asking that Bowman Megas normally release a month after Bowman. With Bowman being pushed a month, do you think they'll drop both at once? And it kind of, at least I think, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but it probably all depends on the production. I haven't heard anything about the Megas, them being released, but if they were able to print them, if they were able to get them out, if they were able to get them out without a delay, then they'll probably come out a lot closer than normal. But they could be delayed.
Closer, but
we
probably
don't
not
know.
at the same time.
Yes, they won't drop them both immediately, but it could be. It all depends on production.
Remember, with the buying power of a Walmart, if you're selling a ton of cards at Walmart may say, we're one of your biggest customers, which they are.
Yes.
Can you please get this out closer to your actual release date? And so you very well may drop the same date if Walmart says, by the way, we want them when the main sets come out too. So
absolutely,
that's very possible. So
very true.
Absolutely. I mean, because basically Walmart's looking at this as the old Costco theory of the fact that most items in Costco have less than a 2% gross margin. And the reason is because Costco brings something in today on the 1st of the month, and it's all gone by the 30th of the month when that bill comes due, right? When that invoice comes due, they've already liquidated 100% of their product. So they work on razor thin margins, passing the savings to the customer, and they really make most of their money on their memberships. And Walmart's looking at it the same way, even though they have a 25% margin if you want to hit their shelf. Anything less than 25%, they don't touch. But with Walmart, they're looking at it like, hey, if you throw Mosaic, you throw Prism on their shelves today, you throw Bowman Megas in there today, they're gone by the end of the business day. It's literally their return, their internal rate of return literally is, hours, minutes. You get people out there that we've talked about on our show stocking, unfortunately, the third-party vendors that stock the shelves. But, I do think moving forward, anytime I'm on the show, I'm going to put an over-under on how many times I get trolled by my lovely co-hosts or callers at 5.5 over-under.
We love you, man.
We could take bets. We could start throwing down, dollar bills on the street corner, like, the guys that do the illegal dice.
There you go. I like it.
So like do we have any other topics?
Not today. I know you had one thing you wanted to, I believe, touch on before we wrapped everything up. So if there is, go right ahead, and then I'll wrap it up after.
First off, I consider all four of you guys friends.
I consider you a friend too.
Well, at least in that, I tolerate you, right, Drew?
Yeah.
I love all you guys. You guys are all great friends of the hobby and ambassadors of the hobby, and I know I'm probably one of the more negative or combative people on Twitter. I know that's a surprise to you.
No.
But so something I tweeted about earlier that I think anybody out there listening, let's take some time and do some positive things. If you've got some cards laying around that you don't need or want, that might work well in somebody else's collection, get their address, send them there. If you have a lot of extras, Rich is always taking donations. But aside from, even if it's not card related, if you haven't heard from a fellow card collector in a while, send them a DM, send them a message, say hi, check on them, check on their mental health. I know a lot of people are suffering from depression or things. It's a very difficult time for each of us in the world right now. And call, check on somebody, say hi to somebody, do something nice for somebody related to the hobby. Go back and look through your old binders, open them up, rekindle your love for the junk wax. I mean, I did that myself. I was organizing some binders. Next thing I know, I've got 12 new star sets from the late 80s, early 90s of Canseco and Henderson on the way. Now's a really good time to kind of rekindle other parts of your passion for the hobby and do something nice. Say hi to somebody, send somebody an RAK, which is a random act of kindness. Let's do something positive. And now it's on film. So
I will let you know that I am downloading this and we'll be saving it for the future. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with you, man. 100%. Very well said. It is a great time to do that. But y'all, I guess we'll wrap up this week's show. Gilmore, Mr. Uncle Rich Klein, thanks so much for joining us. And Mike, I know you dropped a new episode of your show recently, and always about the cards. Their show just they had a new show this week as well, and I'll be putting up the audio for Let Me Get That Potograph here shortly. But we will be back next week, guys, with a all new round of hosts. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been a blast. Thanks for calling in, and we will talk to you guys next week.
See ya, guys.
Perfect.